By the late 1930s, the world was engulfed in fire. Yet, across the Atlantic, America maintained a fragile neutrality. Isolationism was the dominant political doctrine. The horrors of the previous war still haunted the nation's psyche. But the escalating brutality made continued isolation impossible to sustain.
The Lend-Lease Act was America's compromise, becoming the arsenal of democracy without entering the fray.
Meanwhile, tensions with the Empire of Japan escalated rapidly over resource control in the Pacific. Economic sanctions imposed by the US were viewed by Japanese leadership as an act of war. Covertly, a striking force was already underway, heading toward the heart of American naval power. December 7th, 1941. In Hawaii, the tranquility was absolute. No one expected the storm to break here.
At 7:55 a.m., the first aircraft struck. The objective: cripple the Pacific Fleet.
It was a moment of utter surprise. Peace shattered into chaos.
The attack was devastating. Battleships, previously symbols of American power, became burning tombs. Despite the confusion, American servicemen reacted with desperate bravery, fighting back immediately. Over 2,400 Americans were killed. The isolationist debate died in the fires of Pearl Harbor.
News of the attack shocked the continent. The nation was united by shared fury.
The next day, President Roosevelt addressed a joint session of Congress.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy, the United States of America was...
The vote was nearly unanimous. America was officially at war with Japan.
Days later, Germany and Italy honored their pact with Japan. The United States found itself in a total global conflict.
The response was immediate. Millions rushed to volunteer. Mobilization had begun.
Factories shifted instantaneously from producing consumer hardware to military hardware. Overnight, civilians became soldiers. The machinery of training began to churn. Discipline was absolute. These men were being forged into the fighting force that would win the war.
On the home front, American women stepped into roles previously unassailable, driving production to unprecedented heights. The sheer volume of material produced dwarfed the combined output of the Axis powers. Quality was matched only by speed. Despite the immediate desire for revenge against Japan, strategists determined that Germany was the greater long-term threat. Europe first. The first major American ground deployment was Operation Torch, landing in North Africa in late 1942.
This marked the debut of American ground forces against the veteran Axis armies.
The fight for North Africa would be a harsh test for the newly trained American troops. Early skirmishes were brutal. The Americans learned quickly that this was a war of attrition and strategy. The industrial might of America began to assert itself. The rapid deployment of tanks and vehicles proved essential. Behind the lines, immense logistical networks were established, saving countless lives through medical precision.
Leaders like George S. Patton instilled aggressive tactics and a demand for high performance. Every soldier understood the stakes. This was a war against totalitarianism itself. American air superiority was vital. Control of the skies allowed for essential supply routes and tactical strikes. Above the deserts, pilots dueled fiercely, knowing that air cover could determine the fate of ground troops below. The war effort permeated every aspect of American life, even down to rationing and cultivation.
Research and development were accelerated. Radar, sonar, and cryptography became key strategic advantages.
Technological superiority often between different.
The first true success in the European theater solidified America's commitment and capability.
The momentum shifted immediately to the next target, the invasion of Italy, seen as the soft underbelly of the Axis.
Strategic planning for the liberation of Western Europe intensified. Dwight D. Eisenhower led the massive multinational effort.
Elite units were prepared for deep insertion, tasked with disrupting enemy defenses ahead of the main invasion. Intelligence gathering confirmed the formidable strength of German fortifications along the French coast, the Atlantic Wall.
The final preparations were underway for Operation Overlord, the largest amphibious invasion in history.
The American forces were assigned Omaha and Utah beaches. These sectors were known to be heavily defended.
June 6, 1944. Dawn approached. The tension among the troops was palpable.
Omaha Beach was a slaughterhouse. Unexpectedly heavy resistance resulted in immediate, catastrophic losses. The first waves were pinned down. The objective seemed impossible. The entire operation teetered on the brink.
It was individual initiative, driven by necessity and courage, that saved the day.
Engineers braved the heaviest fire to clear obstacles, creating paths inland. Slowly, painfully, footholds were gained. The troops clawed their way toward the German positions.
Once they reached the top, the American soldiers began systematically dismantling the defenses.
The battle moved inland, transitioning from beach assault to close-quarters combat for every meter of ground. On Utah, due to favorable current shifts and less concentrated fire, the invasion proceeded according to plan. Rapid movement off Utah allowed the establishment of a robust beachhead quickly, securing the American flank. Once the beaches were secure, the industrial capacity of the United States poured into France, sustaining the offensive. General Omar Bradley oversaw the relentless push through the hedgerows of the Normandy countryside, a terrain designed for defense. The bocage fighting was slow, grueling, and costly. Every small village became a fierce battleground. American ingenuity again provided the solution. The Rhino modification allowed tanks to finally overcome the bocage maze.
As American divisions pushed deeper, towns and villages were liberated, met by ecstatic local populations.
Operation Cobra shattered the German lines in July 1944. The breakout was achieved. Patton's armored divisions executed a blistering mobile warfare campaign, encircling and destroying vast German armies.
The German high command was shocked by the speed of the American offensive. Their defensive plans crumbled.
By August, Paris was within reach. The symbol of European culture was about to be freed.
The liberation of Paris marked a critical turning point. America's massive intervention had saved Western Europe from tyranny.
The two great military powers of the Allied coalition now pressed toward the heart of Germany from both east and west.
However, the war was far from over. The surprise German counteroffensive in the Ardennes would test the American soldier like never before.
The Battle of the Bulge was Hitler's final, desperate gamble. American forces bore the brunt of the attack.
Units like the 101st Airborne, surrounded at Bastogne, refused to surrender, showcasing unparalleled resilience.
When offered terms of surrender, General McAuliffe's defiant response became legendary. Nuts.
When the weather finally cleared, American air power devastated the exposed German supply lines and armored columns. The bulge was contained. America had proven that its men, backed by its industrial might, were not just fierce, but strategically indispensable. The path to Berlin was now open. America's entry into the war had irrevocably shifted the balance of global power. From isolationism to global leadership, America's dramatic entry into the Second World War